All right, what is up, traders? What's up, tycoons? Today's video is going to be a special one. We're going to look at something, a sector of the market that no one ever pays attention to, and it's actually flashing a really big signal. And we're going to talk about materials today, but more importantly, we're actually going to focus on the shift in the current market and what this move in materials means for treasury yields. It's really suggesting that treasury yields can go higher. Now, we'll do this by starting off and taking a look at the XLB ETF. Okay, then we'll look at a ratio chart versus the S&P 500, go over why this one is important, right? And then there's actually an equity for rising rates ETF, right? So I'm going to bring that to you guys' attention. And when you really dissect that, ETF, XLB and XLE is a big majority portion of it, right? Now, I've been on point with the rotation in energy and XLE, but XLB, materials are something that I never really thought to pay much attention to. But after just doing some research, I think it's very, noteworthy, right? And when you take a look at how these perform versus treasury yields, I can now see why these are the top holdings in the equities for rising rates ETF, right? We'll break down some of these relationships a little bit more. Take a look at the 10-year treasury yield, and then we'll compare how yields, relate to the S&P 500, ultimately just summing up and wrapping up everything nicely for you guys so you understand the importance of what we're seeing right now. Okay, so it's going to be a good video. Be sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. All right. And we'll also actually break down some of the top holdings in XLB as well. Well, we're going to take a look at Lynn. We're going to take a look at FCX, and we're going to take a look at New. Okay. These are some really good stocks. They look like tech stocks. Okay. If I didn't tell you what the company was and I just showed you the chart, a lot of you would say that there's some top tech stocks. Now, as always, the content provided on this channel is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be relied upon as legal, financial, or investment advice. So be sure to read through the disclaimer. And if you're new to the channel, I started a completely free newsletter for you guys called Investment Intelligence, giving out free valuable finance and trading content. And I also try to give out some free trade ideas. Okay. And this is what it'll look like. I'll show you guys the charts, highlight what it is that I'm looking at on the charts. And you can go to the website, okay? Because remember, it's completely free. There's a website with it. You can read some of the past articles. The past 2 weeks, I've been writing about the shift in energy, right? And how we could be seeing energy break out. And this past week, energy was the top performing sector in the S&P 500. And you know what was the worst? Semiconductors. Now, we're going to see if that's the start of a major rotation or if it's a little bit of a false move. But, it's something I've been paying attention to, and readers of the newsletters, have been, up to date to that. And we've been going over some really good plays, and we've made some good money on energy stocks while we've been seeing this tech pullback. All right. Now, if you want to join the Discord, this is where you get access to all my analysis, all my different trade ideas, right? I post at least 20 swing trade ideas every single week. And, some intraday setups if I'm, for whatever it is that I'm day trading, I'll try to post that in there. There's valuable resources, indicators, custom scripts, being able to see things like gamma levels, dark pool levels, and much, much more. It's only $10 a month. You can sign up using the link in the description. Now, these are some highlights of some different plays, in March that we were looking at, and these are what some of the trade ideas will look like. Just highlighting the chart patterns, giving you guys the levels. iClean was one of them a couple weeks ago, had a nice setup, right? We've got Intel also had a really nice setup. And there was a huge order block that came in. We're highlighting this key zone that had been tested, 5 times in the past, and we were re-entering that zone, betting on a bounce. And the Intel options paid very well. Now, let's get into the video starting off here with XLB. Okay, the more times you test resistance, the weaker it's going to get, right? And that's clearly evident by what we're seeing here, right? Where we tested resistance once, twice, 3 times, and on the 4th time, we broke out. We'll take a look at this. We've got this shelf over here where we rejected once, twice. Now, this is our 3rd time testing it, right? Are we going to get the breakout here in XLB? That is the big question. Now, we may reject again, right? And if we do, I think the 4th time that we, test this level up here, which is going to be 92.37, I think we're going to see a breakout. Okay. And ultimately, for the longer term, we're going to be above 92.37. We're really going to be looking for 108.11 in the XLB. Now, it appears that we're getting a huge multi-year base right here. Okay, the larger the base, the larger the rip in your face. Okay, or the larger the base, the larger it goes into space, right? And so, those are kind of jokes, but they actually hold a lot of meaning to them, right? And it is important when you see these really big basing patterns, um, it may take a while for these things to break out, but when they do, you tend to see some really explosive moves. So let's dive into materials a little bit more. Now that we see a nice setup on the weekly time frame there, we're going to look at materials versus the S&P 500. This is a ratio chart of the XLB divided by the SPY. So as this goes up, it means materials are outperforming the SPY, and as it goes down, it means that the SPY is outperforming materials. Now, it's no secret that technology is a very big weighting in the S&P 500. So it makes lots of sense that we're seeing this ratio chart go down here due to the really great performance that we've been seeing in technology. But false moves lead to fast moves, okay? And oftentimes these false breakouts to the upside or to the downside, they can end up leading to very quick reversals. And so you can see we've got a key little zone over here. We bounced off of it before, and then we just ripped right through there. And that looks like a false breakdown to me, right? Like a false move that could potentially be leading to a fast move, right? And this ratio here looks like it's breaking out and is basically just going to continue to suggest that materials are going to start outperforming the tech-heavy S&P 500 ETF SPY. Now, this is EQRR, okay? This is ProShares ETF for equities for rising rates, okay? And this is basically just an ETF that says, hey, if you think rates are going to go up, maybe you can diversify into this portfolio rather than being in something that's interest rate sensitive and has a large potential to go down during a rising rate environment. These are equities that are more primed traditionally for rising rates. And this thing here is breaking out, right? This is another one here that we're seeing with a nice multi-year base. Okay, so if we were to just draw a base here, okay, you can see resistance 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times finally broke out. And this is what I mean, guys. You see these large bases, these are explosive moves. This thing's been going pretty much straight up, heading up towards its next target here of 62. Okay. So it's made a really strong move so far. Now, when I actually dove into the ETF, basically half of it, if not potentially more, okay, or a little bit less, but right around half of that ETF is all energy and materials. So, there's financials in there, which, I didn't really like financials being in there because we've seen currently over the past 2 years that rising rates have actually caused bank failures. Okay, so I don't necessarily want to be looking at financials right now. There's consumer discretionaries in there as well, which I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with that. I'm not qualified enough, but what I know is the real meat and bones seem to be materials and energy. So when you combine those together, okay, which is a feature you can do in something like Thinkorswim or TradingView, that's what we did here. We just combined XLB and XLE and kind of made our own ETF. And what are we seeing here? Well, this looks like, a bull flag breakout to me, right? You have this massive rally here, and then you've got some consolidation for about a year. And we just broke out the trend line, and we just broke the previous highs here. And this one could be heading up towards the 199 area. Okay. Now, all of these charts don't mean that, hey, these things can't check back before rallying more, that they have to continue going up in a straight line. It's more about what is the market telling us, right? The market is sending you a message every day, every week, every month, right? And some people, they're not looking for the message, right? Or they're ignorant to the message and they just don't know where to look, right? And there's lots of different places to look in the market. And so, this is my first time looking at materials. And I'm saying, wow, I've never seen these messages before. But when you go and you actually take a look, and you look at energy and materials, that little combined ETF we just made versus rates via the 10-year yield, you can see that these follow each other very, very well, right? It's not going to be an exact one-to-one correlation or anything, but take a look here, right? I mean, what are we seeing? Well, we're seeing, yields coming up here, right? We're seeing the energy and materials coming up here, right? Then we start to see a decline. We start to see a decline. Right. And, recently, ever since the pandemic lows, they've been tracking along very similarly. Right. And what are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing a move up in treasury yields. Okay. We're starting to see a little bit of a bounce here. And we're seeing the energy and materials, ETF here breaking out. So is this a clue potentially that TNX is about to start rallying, right? That we're about to see rising rates in over the coming weeks and months potentially, right? If you take a look, this tends to move a little bit faster, right? We bottomed out over here, started rallying, and then it took 10-year yield a little bit longer to bottom, and then it started rallying and following as well. Same thing over here. We started rallying much faster after COVID, and after COVID, it took a little while, but then this followed suit as well. So if we're going to use this ETF as a leading indicator, well, this potentially means that yields are looking to be or suggesting via the market is suggesting to us that yields are going to go higher. Okay, now there's plenty of different reasons for this, whether you want to go over macro things or you want to talk about the latest CPI and PPI reports that came in hot, or the job market. There's many factors where people could paint a picture for a rising rate environment, but we mostly focus on technical analysis on this channel, and let the market speak to us and tell us what it's what we should be paying attention to. Now, this initially looked like a top right here. Okay, we called this top out over here previously on the channel, and we suggested that, hey, this was the top here after we came and hit our key little zone, and we started to get a pullback. But if you notice, what we did is we pretty much round tripped all of that. We had a very explosive move here, and we're back up near these same previous highs. So could this potentially form a double top, right? Maybe that's one question we can ask, right? Is, hey, maybe we consolidate here, all right, form a double top and drop back down, right? And put in another top up here. Or, could this be a little bit of a false move to the downside, and we're going to see a fast move in rates? If we get above this zone here, I think we're heading back up to 4.5 on the 10-year yield. Okay. And so there's many different ways to take action, via your theories or your opinions, right? And so obviously this video is not financial advice. I'm not telling you guys to go and sell everything or just, go full portfolio into materials and energy. But you want to ask yourself, hey, if this is going to be right, do I have any exposure to things that could potentially, outperform the S&P 500? If you have a portfolio that looks very similar to the S&P, or if you have a portfolio that looks very similar to the NASDAQ, right? That's even more tech concentrated. Maybe these are some things that you want to ask yourself, hey, what can I do to potentially hedge my portfolio or adjust my portfolio if we're going to go back into a rising rates environment, right? Because when you take a look at yields versus the S&P 500, they have a very inverse relationship. As we're seeing yields climb throughout this period here, we're seeing the S&P 500 go lower. And as we're seeing the S&P 500 go higher through this period here, we're seeing yields in a downtrend. And so if yields are about to break out right here, it's possible we could be seeing a pullback, right? If we were to just try and draw a trend line here, and this is just going to be freehand, so it's going to be a little bit off. It's not going to be perfect, right? But if we drew something like this, we're on the verge of potentially breaking down out of this uptrend, right? And if we were to do so, okay, it's very possible that yields are going to continue ripping higher. Now, one may happen because of the other, or one may happen and the other may not, all right? But these are some things to consider, right? Which is why I'm making this video today, because I wanted to bring it to you guys' attention. And I think it's something that not a lot of people are talking about, and it's good content to, pick your brain rather than just, the average video saying, oh, this is a bubble or it's not a bubble, and really just give you guys some interesting facts and data that you can do with what you want in the market and in your portfolios. Now, let's take a look at some of these top material names. Okay, now these stocks are all just picked from the top 5 holdings. They're not the top 3 or whatever, but we're just going to show some of the leaders in the XLB so you guys can see what we mean and why the XLB chart looks like it does. I mean, tell me Lynn right here does not look like an AI stock. I mean, the stock just went from 262 all the way up to almost $480 in a very, very quick time period. Okay, that's a massive move right there. Very, very massive move. And so when we're looking at this, I mean, honestly, the next target, the next fib target up above is going to be right around 496. Okay, we'll just round that off to about 495. Now, I'm not telling anyone to chase this. Okay, if you look, I mean, if this is a weekly time frame, it's gone straight up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. We opened up higher and rallied this week, but we did get a little bit of pullback, but we still closed above last week highs. Ultimately, I think if this was to pull back maybe to this 407 or to this previous zone just below 400, right around 390. Okay, these are some areas where you may want to look to add these to your portfolio, right? Or if you're someone who likes to day trade or do really short-term trades, you can go down to a smaller time frame, right, such as a 1 hour or a 4 hour, and look for some potential short-term entries there based on some previous support and resistance levels that we had in the past. This is FCX. Okay, this is Freeport. All right, now Freeport, another one of these stocks putting in a huge multi-year base. Now we haven't retested the highs here, which are going to be right around 52, but we have broken out of this shorter term base right here, right? We had highs, lower highs, and we're just now breaking out and attempting to retest old supply. That was resistance here, resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. If this continues, and breaks out, we continue this breakout, 52 looks like the next stop, right? It looks like we're going to come up and retest this overhead supply and head towards some of these previous highs that we had in the market, right? When you look at the MACD just crossed over, right? The RSI just broke out right here, and the RSI is not overbought. The MACD just had a bullish crossover. So if these things really want to run and materials continues to be a hot sector, it's very possible that this is a good stock right here, right? That has good momentum. Maybe if you're trying to get in here and target those 52 highs, we're right around 44.50 right now. You can use this previous fib level as a stop loss or something, say, hey, below 41.66, I don't want to take this. That's about a $3 risk. And then you're looking to make about $7 to the upside. So a little bit over a 2-to-1 ratio if you were to get in exactly where it's at right now. Obviously, if it pulls back a little bit, your risk to reward ratio can get skewed a little more in your favor. Now, NUE is going to be New Corp. Okay, New Corp is another really great company, right? And it's just got this huge uptrend, guys, just lows, higher lows, higher lows, right? And again, what are we seeing? Well, we had previous resistance, right? We have overhead supply over here. We have overhead supply over here. And what are we doing now? We're coming down and we're retesting that same zone. We bounced off of it this week. All right. And basically above 188.48. Now, I like this one for longs, right? And ultimately, the next fib target up above is going to be 242. Okay. And this is one that's, again, easy to manage your risk. You're targeting 242 up here. You're entering in right around 188. Okay, and maybe you want to put a stop loss here right around 175, okay, near the bottom of this zone right here. Or maybe you want something a little bit tighter, just below 180, 179, something like that. These are just some things to pay attention to and some ideas for you guys to consider because, a lot of these stocks, nobody even knows about, right? Nobody even pays attention to these. And some of these actually have some nice little dividends too as well, right? So, sometimes the longer it takes, if you're buying shares, not options, sometimes the longer it takes for some of these things to hit your target, you're not necessarily minding too much because what you're doing is you're collecting dividends on top of that while you're waiting for it to hit your profit goal. Okay. Now, options traders, obviously, they want it to hit the price targets as soon as possible so they can make as much money as possible. But, this video is not really based on options. Now, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Okay. And if you enjoy analysis like this and you want to get access to all my different analysis, all my different trade ideas every single week, posting over 20 plus swing trade ideas, join the Discord. Okay. It's $10 a month. You can see the results of some of the plays. Many different trade ideas in there. And there's a link in the description for $10 a month. Completely free, right? If you guys don't want to pay anything, I'm still putting out free content for you guys. The newsletter is really great, right? There is a website with it, so you don't have to sign up, okay? But if you enjoy the content on the website and you want those articles just sent directly to your inbox, well, then you can just sign up for the newsletter via the link in the description as well. And if you're someone who likes how I do my analysis and you feel like you have some questions or you want to go over some day trading strategies or some swing trading strategies that I use, and you feel like you just need that one-on-one personal touch, there's a link in the description for my Ko-Fi page, and in there you can click on the commissions tab. In that commissions tab, you guys can book a 30-minute or a 1-hour session, right? I do these little coaching sessions all the time. All the Discord members get 20% off of the coaching sessions. There's also this little buy a coffee button, basically as a way to leave a tip or donation for the free valuable content I do put out. And you guys can also request specific YouTube videos on the topic of your choice, right? So, maybe you've got something that nobody's covering, and you really, really want me to make a video on it. It's burning or something like that. You can use the Ko-Fi page and request for a YouTube video there. That's it for today's video. Thank you guys all for watching. I really appreciate your time, and I'll see you in the next one.